The first thing I remember is the wind. Thin, needling, slipping through every gap in my jacket as I pushed up the stony path of Ben Macdui. The cairngorms stretched dull and endless around me, all rock and ghost light, the kind of landscape that makes you feel like you've stepped off the edge of the map. I was alone. That had been the point. 3 days off-grid, no phone signal, no deadlines, just me and a mountain that, if you believe the stories, doesn't like to be climbed alone. I'd heard the legend in the pub the night before, half joking. The big gray man of Ben Macdui, a towering shadow that stalks the ridge, more felt than seen. A trick of the light, they said. A trick of the mind, they said. I laughed along, then lay awake listening to the wind claw at the hostel windows. By midday, the weather turned. The sky thickened into a low, moving ceiling. The line between cloud and snowfield blurred until there wasn't one. I checked my map, checked my compass, told myself this was fine, this was what I'd come for. The rawness, the silence. But it wasn't silent. Not really. Somewhere behind me, just far enough that I couldn't pinpoint it, came the sound of footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Crunch, pause, crunch, pause. I stopped. The sound stopped. I turned, expecting to see another hiker, some late starter catching up. Nothing. Just the smothering gray and the wind pressing close, as if it were listening. I told myself it was echo, the wind bouncing my own steps back at me. I walked on, faster this time. The footsteps returned, matching my pace, always a beat behind. The path narrowed along a drop veiled in cloud. My breathing grew loud in my ears, my heart louder still. And beneath it, that steady crunch, pause, crunch. At first I refused to look back. Then the feeling hit me. The undeniable sense that someone was standing just at the edge of my vision, tall enough to blot out sky. I spun around. There he was, or something was. Not shape so much as absence of shape. A vertical smear of darker gray in the fog, ragged at the edges, towering over the cairn behind it. No face, no features, just a sense of immense height and a weight of attention that made my skin want to peel away from my bones. The wind died for one impossible second. In that silence I felt, rather than heard, a deep thrumming, like a voice too low to register, pressing against my chest, my teeth, the back of my eyes. It wasn't words, but it carried meaning all the same. You are not meant to be here. My knees almost went. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but there was nowhere to run to, just rock and drop and cloud. I shut my eyes, clutched the compass in my hand like a relic, and forced myself to turn away from that presence. One step, then another. Don't think, don't look, just move. The footsteps followed. They never closed the distance, never lagged, just stayed, inexorable a few paces behind, as if herding me downslope. The air thickened, colors drained until the world was only shades of ash. Time stretched into a tight wire. At some point I started talking out loud, babbling anything, song lyrics, my grocery list, childhood memories, because my own voice was the only proof I still existed. Then, as abruptly as it had come, the pressure lifted. The wind rushed back in, harsh and ordinary. The fog thinned, broke, and suddenly I could see the lower slopes, the valley, a ribbon of road. I realized I was almost running. I risked one last glance over my shoulder. Nothing. No shadow, no giant figure. Just an empty ridge, ancient and indifferent. By the time I reached the car, my legs were shaking so hard I fumbled the keys twice. I told myself it had been the weather, the altitude, exhaustion, maybe a mild panic attack. I told myself the big gray man was just a story, a shared hallucination born from isolation and fear. That night, in the safety of my room, I almost believed it. But sometimes, when the house is quiet and the world narrows around me, I hear it again. That slow, patient crunch, pause, crunch, just behind me where I can't quite see. And I know this much. Whatever waits on that mountain doesn't care if you believe in it. It only cares that you come alone, and that once you've felt its gaze, part of you never really leaves.
It was just after midnight on March 8, 2014, when Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 rolled onto the runway in Kuala Lumpur, a Boeing 757 gleaming under floodlights, engines humming with the familiar vibration of countless journeys. 239 souls settled into their seats, business travelers checking emails, families dozing, flight attendants securing galleys, and rehearsing their quiet choreography of the night sky. The climb was smooth. The city lights fell away, replaced by darkness and scattered stars. At 1:19 a.m., as the aircraft neared the edge of Malaysian airspace, a calm voice came over the radio from the cockpit. "Good night, Malaysian 370. It was routine, unremarkable, exactly what controllers had heard 1,000 times before. Then, nothing. On the radar screen in Kuala Lumpur, the green blip that was MH370 began to drift toward the boundary with Vietnamese airspace. It should have been picked up by the next control center, handed off like a baton in a relay. But as minutes ticked past, silence thickened. No radio call, no response. And then, without warning, the transponder data vanished. The blip became just another piece of the night. Controllers tried raising the crew. Other aircraft were asked to hail MH370 on emergency frequencies. Static replied. Somewhere, high over the dark waters below, a fully loaded airliner had slipped out of the system built to track it. By sunrise, families who thought their loved ones were halfway to Beijing were discovering that the plane was missing. In airports and living rooms, phones rang unanswered. Televisions flashed breaking news banners, the flight number looping endlessly along the bottom of the screen. Anxious faces stared at images of the missing jet, identical to countless others that landed safely every day. Search planes and ships combed the South China Sea, fanning out along the planned route, but the sea remained empty, indifferent. Days later came a twist that changed everything. Radar and satellite data suggested the aircraft had turned sharply off course, crossing back over the Malay Peninsula, then flying west, then south, toward the lonely expanse of the southern Indian Ocean. Engine handshakes. With a satellite, faint electronic whispers sent every hour were all that remained of the plane's trail. Analysts turned into detectives, tracing arcs across the globe from those ghostly signals. The likely resting place, a cold, remote stretch of ocean where waves could swallow evidence whole. Ships dropped sonar equipment into black water miles deep. Search crews stared at shifting patterns on screens, hoping for the outline of wreckage. Months became years. Nations spent hundreds of millions of dollars. Still, the ocean kept its secret. From time to time, pieces began to appear. A wing fragment on a beach in Réunion. Bits of interior panels on African shores and Indian Ocean islands. They bore the code of MH370, mute proof that the jet had broken apart somewhere out there, beyond the horizon. But the main wreckage, the fuselage, the cockpit voice recorder, the answers, stayed hidden. In the void, theories multiplied. Some whispered of hijackers and shadowy plots. Others spoke of a sudden fire, of a slow loss of oxygen that turned the cabin into a drifting tomb. Investigators weighed each idea against the hard edges of data and physics, but every path ended in fog. There was not enough to be certain, just enough to never stop wondering. Families refused to let the world move on. They held pictures at candlelight vigils, marched with banners, confronted officials in press conferences. They demanded more searches, more transparency, anything that might keep their loved ones from becoming mere statistics in aviation history. Their grief turned into a stubborn, enduring demand, not just to know that the plane was gone, but to understand how and why. In the years that followed, Flight 370 reshaped aviation. New rules pushed airlines to track their planes more closely, even over oceans. Satellites were tasked with watching not only the weather, but the thin silver roots we draw across the sky. Every boarding passenger since, stepping through the jet bridge, has unknowingly carried a little piece of MH370's legacy. Yet the central image remains: a modern airliner, alive with conversations and quiet dreams, disappearing into an ordinary night and never returning. Somewhere beneath the vast shifting waves, metal rests in darkness, and with it, stories cut short mid-sentence. Until the day the wreckage is found, if that day ever comes, Flight 370 exists at the uneasy border between fact and myth. Its numbers are etched into memory, a reminder that even in an age of satellites and constant connection, it is still possible for something large and familiar to simply vanish. And so the world continues to fly over the same oceans, skimming above the same invisible paths, glancing down into the deep. Somewhere below, in the cold silence, lies an answer we are still searching for, carried on every unanswered call, every empty seat, every lingering look at a radar screen where a single green blip once was, and then was gone. Picture a strip of blinding white desert, heat dancing over the horizon, and right in the middle of nowhere. A place you are absolutely not allowed to go. No signs on highways, no tourist entrance, just fences, cameras, and warnings that this is the edge of the known world, Area 51. For decades, it didn't officially exist. No lines on public maps, no acknowledgement from the government, yet stories leaked out. Strange lights in the sky, silent triangles gliding over the mountains, and unmarked planes ferrying workers in and out of a base that nobody would talk about. So what is Area 51 really? On paper, it's part of the Nevada Test and Training Range, a highly restricted patch of desert around a dry lake bed called Groom Lake. In the 1950s, during the Cold War, the United States needed somewhere remote to test secret spy planes away from Soviet eyes and public cameras. Lockheed engineers showed up with something radical, the U-2, a jet that could cruise higher than any plane before it. They needed secrecy so complete that even other military personnel shouldn't know what was being built and flown there. That secrecy became the DNA of Area 51. From there, the legend only deepened. The SR-71 Blackbird, a black arrow that outran missiles, flew its first test flights in that desert sky. Experimental shapes appeared, odd angles, strange wings, aircraft that looked more like shadows than planes. By the time stealth technology was being developed, Groom Lake was already a magnet for rumors. People living in nearby towns saw lights zigzagging in impossible ways, heard booms with no visible aircraft, and filled in the silence with the wildest explanations they could imagine. Then came the UFO era. After Roswell, any hint of a government secret was automatically linked to aliens, and Area 51 was too perfect a setting to ignore. In 1989, a man named Bob Lazar claimed he'd worked near Area 51 on extraterrestrial craft and reverse-engineered alien technology. Whether you believe him or not, his story exploded into pop culture. Documentaries, late-night radio, conspiracy forums, all suddenly circled around the idea that somewhere out there in the Nevada desert, humanity was tinkering with engines not of this earth. Meanwhile, the government stayed almost completely silent. Officially, Area 51 wasn't acknowledged until 2013, when declassified CIA documents finally named the base and described its role in testing reconnaissance aircraft. No word about flying saucers, no alien autopsies, just technical reports and code names. Even today, the perimeter is guarded by anonymous security teams known as Camo Dudes. Motion sensors are buried in the sand, and the airspace above the base is among the most restricted on the planet. So if there are no aliens, why so secretive? Because cutting-edge aircraft are powerful long before they're public. Imagine testing prototypes for drones years before anyone has heard of them, or experimenting with new radar-evading shapes, high-speed propulsion, or electronic warfare systems. If an adversary understands what you're building, they can start designing ways to defeat it. Area 51 is the perfect place to push those boundaries unseen. And yet, the mystery refuses to die. The glow on the horizon at 3 a.m., the photographs of strange contrails, the grainy images from distant hills where curious observers sit with telescopes and hope to catch something they're not meant to see. These keep the legend alive. Area 51 is both a real, working test site and a blank canvas for our imagination, where the line between classified technology and science fiction blurs in the desert heat. In the end, what is Area 51 has two answers. Officially, it's a secure flight test center, a crucible where some of the most advanced aircraft ever built first took to the sky. Unofficially, it's a modern myth, a symbol of what we don't know, and maybe what we're not supposed to know. Somewhere beyond those fences, under that endless Nevada sun, the next generation of secrets is already flying. Whether they're human, alien, or something in between, for now, remains locked behind the words, "No trespassing." Every town has a story. This one was buried, until it clawed its way back out of the ground. On the map, it's just a name fading from the paper. In real life, it feels like the air is holding its breath. Streetlights buzz, then flicker off without warning. Windows stay boarded even in daylight. No one stands in the streets after dark. Not since the night the kids went up to the cemetery on the hill. It was years ago. 5 of them, bored, wild, chasing a dare that should have stayed a joke. They broke the rusted lock on the cemetery gate and pushed inside, laughing too loud in a place built for whispers. At the center stood an old tilted angel statue, its face eaten away by time. Beneath it, a sunken family tomb, sealed for over a century. The one the elders always said never to touch. They brought spray paint and a hammer. They carved their names into the stone, smashed the plaques, kicked over brittle crosses. Then one of them, eager to impress, pried open the cracked tomb door. The ground shuddered just once, like something exhaled from below. Their flashlights went out. In that pitch-black moment, every one of them heard it. A whisper, right at their ear, speaking their full name. None of the kids ever talked about what they saw in that darkness. They staggered down the hill at dawn, eyes wide, mouths shut. By the end of the week, the town changed. Dogs howled at empty corners. House clocks stopped at 3:03 a.m. Then all started again in perfect unison. Faces appeared in second-story windows of abandoned homes. People moved away, slowly at first, then in waves. No one goes near the cemetery now. The angel has new names carved into it. Names of people who left the town but never made it to the next one. On windy nights, you can hear children laughing from the hill. Though everyone who once went up there is long gone, they say the dead were woken and took the town as payment. And if you're unlucky enough to pass through after sunset, remember, this place doesn't want visitors. It wants witnesses.